Hey, you know that guy who just before the green flag keys up his mic and asks, "Anybody got a setup?" Well, this is him. This is Adam, and hey, Adam needs some help. On the other hand, this guy over here, this is Steve. Steve is a solid racer and he knows his way around the garage. Steve's problem is time. With a job and a family, he can't find enough time to build competitive setups and to race as often as he likes. But as luck would have it, Steve knows a secret. He lets the Majors Garage crew chiefs do the setup work so he can focus on the racing. At majorsgarage.com, Steve can get setups for over 60 cars on the iRacing service. So no matter what series he wants to jump into, he is covered. Somebody, anybody, really should tell Adam. See you at the garage.
Well, most people likely imagine race cars as being rear-wheel drive. Touring car racing has become hugely popular the world over. With the TCR class being introduced onto iRacing, you can now hop into your favorite front-wheel drive machine and go. Naturally, this discipline also needs to be represented here as we get ready to watch the Majors TCR Australia, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and joining me in the booth is Roush Racing driver Joey Atterbury. Behind the scenes is our director, Dan Costello, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Bathurst will host our fourth round of the season. In case you aren't familiar with Down Under's most spectacular circuit, let's head to our track guide. Welcome to Mount Panorama Circuit. Most drivers simply refer to this place as Bathurst, with it being located just to the southwest of the city's major hub. But most ominously, and perhaps appropriately, it's been nicknamed the Mountain. With more than 500 feet of elevation change over the course of a lap, it's easy to understand why. Though originally built for racing, it's become a street circuit over time, with the track itself used for regular traffic and featuring residential housing all along the roads. This makes this 4-mile, 23-turn course incredibly unique in the world of racing. In the past, the track has hosted a variety of types of cars, including open-wheelers. But modern safety standards means that most competitive racing has now been limited to sports cars and touring cars. However, the dangers are very real due to the incredibly high speeds and lack of runoff throughout much of the circuit. The quickest parts are the run up the mountain straight towards Griffin's Bend, and then the flat-out blast back down the Conrad Straight and into the chase. This chicane was added in the late 80s to break up the run down to Murray's Corner. But while most chicanes are derided for ruining the character of a track, the terrifying speed as you approach it and the general difficulty make it fit right in with Bathurst challenges. However, the toughest portions are undoubtedly along the mountain itself, with notorious corners like the Cutting, Brock's Skyline, the Dipper, and Forest's Elbow. In fact, one of the more unique worries of this course is that all of these parts are so narrow that track blockages due to wrecks are not uncommon in the first few laps. The Australian fans often line the fences and hillsides to witness the daredevil spectacle of drivers trying to claim King of the Mountain. You can't blame them with how rare of a sight a track like Bathurst is today. I was talking before we came live, Joey. This is on my bucket list of tracks I want to go to in person.
Mount Panorama, Bathurst, just one of the coolest racetracks in the entire world. 23 turns up and down a mountain, and it is all about keeping it off the walls and maximizing that straight line speed down the Conrad straightaway. So really just play nice out here, and hopefully you're all going to come out the other side.
And this format is certainly going to be interesting with touring cars. As we will have 3 races that we will be running today. Each of those races will be 11 laps. Of course, as we've mentioned, this is in the TCR cars. It's an open setup series. And the most important thing with the Mountain, you do have a spare car in each race if you need. So that will help you out tremendously. And looks like they are ready to grid up for our first race of tonight. It is going to be Brian Boomsma starting on the pole as Jesper Eriksson will start next to him. David Baker will be P3. Then it's Daniel Holmer starting fourth today as Daniel Bloomquist will be P5 and Travis Henderson will flank him on row 3. Claude Belval will start 7th. Ryan Walker has experience in these cars starting 8th. Mike Golightly 9th and Josh Hampton 10th. Joey?
Then Tom Guest in the 058 will start 11th. Kenneth Reeder next to him in 12th. Kyle Marlar in 13th. Lynn Kinchlow starting 14th. And then on row number 8 is Matt Gelder as well as Michael Hogg in 16th. Ernie Ludwig will be the final of the 17 cars here this heat.
Now, 9 of the drivers in the top finishing positions will advance to our next heat. We'll withdraw drivers from the lower heat going on simultaneously over on Radeon. Engines are now revving as the lights go up for race 1, and the green flag is out off the line. Eriksson looks extremely good compared to Boomsma and immediately pulls ahead of him as they come up to Hell Corner. He can chop down if he wants to. He does. He's going to take the lead.
Now it is the run all the way up and down this straightaway here. You're going to see so much elevation throughout the entire track, and it starts right here. You got to use the slipstream, and in these TCR cars, the tires are not up to temperature, and you're coming up to probably the most treacherous part of the track. Time to attack the mountain, Joe.
Indeed, as they hit Griffin's Bend, the cars try to single file out now. It's going to be difficult to pass from here. Somebody in the wall, I thought, in the background potentially. And Kenneth Reeder also getting a little bit slippery as now they head up towards the cutting. A big look up the inside from Boomsma on Eriksson. The rest of them behind looking like they're mostly going to go single file, although it appears Henderson had a go at Marlar there.
I can report to you it was Ryan Walker that got the outside wall in turn number 2, Griffin's Bend, and such a shame because he had a great launch off of that standing start, so he's fallen 4 positions back down to that 12th spot. Now, he was one of those cars that was 3 wide in the cutting, and oh no, Travis Henderson right there snags the wall going over Skyline.
Oh, and somebody off into the grass as well. I'm amazed that we still have all 17 cars running right now. It's been a wild start for them as we ride on board with Josh Hampton looking up at Mike Golightly for 7th. He's also got Tom Guest directly behind him in his mirrors. This is where the mountain section ends, coming down at a forest elbow, and once again, they get on the power.
Stand on that right pedal there and just hope that you got the top end speed. I believe this is Ryan Walker poking out around Travis Henderson here. Conrad straightaway is so dang long and it is downhill. It feeds into this super fast right-hander. This kink also down into the chase, and it looks like Ryan Walker will get around, get that pass done.
As we check back in with Hampton side by side with Tom Guest coming down into the chase. Looks like that's going to be Hampton coming out ahead as Golightly starts to pull away from them. Meanwhile, up in the battle for P4 here, Holmer side by side with Blomqvist as the 2 drivers with that Swedish flag on top going to settle into P4 and P5.
Well, we completed 1 lap here at the mountain, and knock on some wood, we still got all of the cars on the track, and this is Boomsma getting around Eriksson. That was a pass for the lead.
Nicely done. Surprised him down into Hell Corner and managed to get through. They're going to have a big tow coming up the mountain straight into Griffin's Bend, but not enough of one, it seems, as Eriksson can't quite seem to get up there. The Forza Esports driver pokes his nose out, but no dice.
And you saw Boomsma really put the car right in the middle of the track, and I have a feeling he's going to do the same thing here through the cutting, not allow Eriksson to try to sneak up the inside, and that's exactly what he did. Just don't allow any sort of open door, but look at Eriksson literally pushing the number 17 up the hill.
I'll be honest, I've called tons of sports car races at this track, but never front-wheel drive cars. So far, I'm enjoying this.
It's fun because they carry so much momentum. I think that we were talking about it pre-race that the downhill, that's the sketchy part with these TCR cars. You got to be so good and confident on the brakes, but literally everything is in the front end of these cars. The rear is just kind of along for the ride.
as they plunge down through the dipper. Ericsson unable to keep right on the back of Boomsma. Will that be important by the time they hit Conrad as they fly through Forest Elbow now? And coming onto that straight, that looks a little bit too far to me. They are pulling away from David Baker, who sits in third currently, and I think we may have had our first accident with Matt Gelder here.
Yeah, this is the purple and blue number 69 car coming down the hill, and judging from where they are, I would expect maybe something happened in the dipper as we check in on Tom Guest. All over the back of this white number 43. We're going to head down into the chase. A great passing opportunity. 150 miles an hour in these TCR cars. Out pops to the inside in the Honda textbook out braking maneuver, but now he goes off the racetrack. Got to be careful about that one. Don't want to get any slowdowns, and it looks like he's actually going to have to give that back. He might lose 2 out of this.
Yeah, that is Hampton trying to see if he can sneak through as he's going to go around the outside. No, he opens the door for Marlar. Marlar mugs him.
And now we also have Ryan Walker joining the party. Look at this, 5 TCR cars thinking about 3 wide into turn number 1. Ryan Walker sends it in there. Now a little bit of contact on the corner exit. He's going to nail the wall.
Oh, the Scotsman finds himself with major damage and a smoking engine as he returns to the track. Meanwhile, Tom Guest still sitting behind Go Lightly, but looks like that is thinned out in that crowd.
It's a Volkswagen Audi product. The check engine light is on all the time. Just keep on running that thing, Joe.
Oh, boy. Yeah, we've got 4 different makes of cars available to the drivers. The Honda Civic, the Audi RS, the Hyundai Elantra, and the Hyundai Veloster also able to be run in this race today. So Jesper Eriksson still behind Boomsma. Both of these drivers in an Elantra.
Remember, it was that sneaky move in turn 1 at the start of lap number 2 to put that number 17 lead. So I wouldn't count out Ericsson whatsoever, as this is the battle for what is, I believe, 14th place back here, 13th place. We got Lynn Kinchlow in that number 44, Michael Hogg second in line, and then also Ernie Ludwig in that purple and turquoise car, kind of rounding out this 3-car train up and over Skyline here, the very, very top of the mountain at Bathurst, and now you see it all starts to go downhill.
Indeed, quite literally, and it is a very steep downhill down to the dipper, as the drivers will often get 3 wheels only touching the ground through that portion of the track. It switches back and forth through the S's as we come back to Ericsson. This is a much better run. He's going to try and give it a go down into the chase. He gets side by side, a nose ahead, but he's on the outside as they break for the corner. Boomsma moves back ahead, switch back from Ericsson as he tries to come back on the other side now.
There was a little bit of a door bang and more posturing between the two. Boomsma really trying to hold a defensive line, but Ericsson does have a nose on that rear axle. And now we got contact at apex. They're both going to keep it on the track, but that moves Ericsson up into the lead. I'm sure that Brian Boomsma, he's not going to forget that one.
No, and if you're new to this style of racing, that's a feature, not a bug. These things are made to make some contact. You have to expect it in TC-style racing. Meanwhile, Michael Hogg back here once again has managed to get ahead of Ludwig and Kinchlow. Kinchlow fighting around the outside of Ernie, and he's going to give up the ghost this time.
Sometimes it's better just going into turn 1. You got this long straightaway at the exit. You don't want to come out of there too wide. You want to maximize your run. Sometimes it's a little bit of a bummer, but if you're in the losing end of that battle, just tuck in line, go single file. It is much faster. And look at the front of the field now that we've had that little shakeup. It is 4 cars all fighting for the lead, and that includes Baker holding off Blomqvist here for third.
Indeed, and coming now up through Reed Park here. This is where there's a series of parks on the side of the track, but it's all swift left-handers that they have to deal with. Doesn't look like Blomqvist's going to be able to do anything on this one. He'll have to get tighter to the rear end of Baker if he wants to get onto the podium. Remember, it's the top 9 is the goal here, as they will automatically advance to Heat 3, which we will be covering on race 2.
That Skyline section that we just passed, my favorite part of this course. And then that downhill, just, you got to be so ahead of every single corner. If you get behind at any part of this, you're going to find yourself in a wall. And then Forest Elbow right here, it is so tight. You find yourself getting sucked into that right side. That wall comes up so close, but you got to maximize that power down, not understeer into that wall with these front-wheel drive cars, because this Conrad straightaway downhill, and as we see, very, very long.
Kind of surprised that we're seeing it's the Swedish contingent that is doing so strongly here today. In fact, I don't see many from the UK&I club because, boy, do the British love their touring car racing, and I thought that maybe we'd see quite a few of them. Homer, unfortunately, having a bit of an off there for a brief moment. Bloomquist here still trying to challenge with Baker. They're only about a second and a half back from Boomsma and Ericsson. If they don't fight too hard, they could try and chase for the win.
They definitely could. They can close it up. And remember, going into the cutting that previous lap, they were definitely much closer than what they are now. So, yeah, if probably Blomqvist and Baker cooperate, they might be able to hunt down the leaders. And you were making the comment on Homer kind of running wide through the chase. These TCR cars, they're a little bit of a mental dilemma for a lot of these drivers. They're only doing about 150 miles an hour. So when you come up to these brake zones, that seems like eternity for these drivers to think, hey, can I take it 10 feet further? I'm not going that fast. I think I can. Then all of a sudden, you find yourself off on exit.
Only, you say, 150. And I mean, these are not base showroom cars that you could take out onto the street. These are definitely race cars, but they're a little closer than what you get for some other race cars, as they are still very close. So imagine taking your Veloster out and getting it up to 150 ticks.
Yes, it would be a little bit different than these race cars. And thankfully, they're so stable. And I think the coolest part about TCR is they really are evenly matched. We have four different cars, four different chassis out here, and they all got about the same top speed, the same handling characteristics. They're all tricky on the brake, so just kind of pick your flavor of ice cream that you like and start working on it, and hopefully you can get up to the front.
Boomsma here still holding on to Ericsson, as Jespers managed to get back through into the lead. They've traded a couple times in this race, only on lap 5 of this event. Takes a while to get around here at 2.5 minutes to circulate just a single lap at this track in the TCR class cars. Not going to be close enough this time, it seems, for the number 17. So we'll check back in on Travis Henderson now.
He is all over the back of Mike Golightly here, going to the inside, so that's going to provide him track position down into the chase. But if Golightly can hang out right on the door, it's going to provide him the inside going into what is turn number 21. It looks like Henderson is going to clear Golightly, so not even a fight there. Move Henderson up into 8.
What that does do is that's Marler in behind them. 10th position. Remember, 9th is the cutoff. So now Golightly is finding himself on the bubble and in danger. Kinchlow outside of that cut line, trying to work his way forward as he attacks Michael Hogg, but fails.
That's an excellent point that you brought up about that transfer line. We haven't really talked about it too much, but yeah, if you're in 10th place, well, guess what? You're not going to join the party with the rest of your buddies. Top 9 only. That is where you want to be at the end of this thing.
I'll have to double check to see. Whoa! Big dive! Maybe too hard of a dive, and thankfully the front wheel drive saves him. But Boomsma, I can't believe he made that move, and now he has truly been caught by third place. Baker actually giving him a little shove there.
Yeah, it just all kind of fell apart once he couldn't get the nose down to the apex, just overcharged it way too much in there. And you're right, Baker all over the back, Bloomquist all over the back of Baker. So what was a fight for the lead for Boomsma, now he's just looking in the mirrors. He's got to play defense versus offense.
So is he going to try and fight to catch back up to Ericsson? Or is he going to be content to try and just hold this second place to the end of the race, because he is well above that cut line, and even if he does get overtaken by Baker and Blomqvist, he's going to still be quite safe here. And this on, but oh, was that a scrape of the wall actually there?
I think it was a double scrape of the wall, once on the right side and then once on the left side. Now, here in the sim, we do get a little bit of the tire smoke and wall animations if you get really, really close. So hopefully he didn't knock anything out of alignment, but it just goes to show you how aggressive Boomsma is. He did not want to give up the lead. He wanted to make the pass and secure that pass, and now He's just out there fighting as Marlar smacks the wall off of Forrest's elbow.
Yeah, so that might hurt his chances of taking that 9th place away. Coming back to 4th now into the braking. Bloomquist on Baker, but not nearly tight enough to him to try and attack that time. We're halfway through this race now, and there you can see top 4 only separated by 2.5 seconds.
Joe, I don't know if you saw Boomsma with 2 wheels in the dirt on apex through the chase there. I mean, that's a driver that says, I want to go back up there and catch Ericsson, who moved me out of the way earlier. I had a failed attempt at a pass. I have a feeling another one's coming.
There's no incident limit in this race, which is unusual for the majors. Usually they have that. I guess they figure if you rack up too many of them, you've probably hit the wall and that's your day over anyways. But I mean, these front wheel drive cars, I'm pretty sure they can get away with getting a little bit over the limit at times on the grass.
I have a feeling that the driver's feelings are going to get hurt more than the chassis, Joe.
No doubt. Ryan Walker, unfortunately, trying to get out of last place here. That looked like a hiccup from Gelder. And we come back to Bloomquist once again, though. Still looking on either side of David Baker, but unable to do anything, especially now through the narrow mount portion.
And the one thing that I'm picked up on is Boomsma has actually gapped it out over David Baker. So I do feel like Boomsma and Ericsson probably have a little bit more pace over these cars that are running in 3rd and 4th place. Not to call them slow by any means, but I think if we're looking for the potential on the race win, it's going to come down to the number 37 versus the 17. It's just a matter of if Boomsma can actually crawl it back.
Oh! And now Daniel had his opportunity to test out the wall, and unfortunately it also didn't move for him. So the 998 car probably had some pretty big damage because I think he hit the right front.
It's so tricky on any of those walls, and you're right, that right front fender damage, I think the only saving grace is we're coming up to go on to lap number 8, so only a few laps to go. He is in a decent position in terms of track position, got plenty of seconds before 9th place. I would not come down and get this fixed unless you absolutely have to.
No, there's no scheduled pit stops for these 3 races. Woo, Boomsma also using a little bit of creative lines on the track, going a bit wide there at the chase. That might be helping him catch up to Jesper Ericsson. Remember, Jesper, our points leader, coming into round 4 here. So he wants to try and stay ahead and keep himself clear of Boomsma, who I don't think is a part of the top 10 in the points right now.
And despite Boomsma and all of the aggressive driving, he was actually a 10th slower than Ericsson that lap. So it's still hovering right about 1.1 seconds between 1st and 2nd place. However, 2nd to 3rd is now up to 1.5 seconds as this battle still continues on between Michael Hall and Ernie Ludwig. Ludwig is just trying to find a way around.
He's going to have a good run here. He's going to be to the inside, coming down towards turn 1. They're side by side into the braking of hell corner. Hogg going to try and get the launch off that outside line. He actually does pretty good. The drag race continues.
Yeah, and it's just going to allow Kinchlow, the 3rd car in line, a mega double draft right behind him. Got Hampton as well. So this is now the braking duel, right? We got Hogg on the inside, Ludwig on the outside, but remember, turn 2 Griffin's Bend is a right-hander, steep uphill. Who's got the bigger guts? It looks like it's going to stay to the inside, but does Ludwig do the over-under? That's what he's going to try to do. He's going to get pushed up the hill from Kinchlow. A little bit of help.
Kinch hoping maybe he can get a position from that, and he does. It is dangerous up into the cutting, and he knew it. Hogg lost that game of chicken. Now he's got Josh Hampton in behind. Change of multiple positions there in just a few corners.
Kinchlow actually smacked the inside wall there at the cutting, so didn't look like too big of a hit. Just got to be careful. That is the steering end of the car. Don't want to knock anything out of alignment.
Yeah, I mean, steering end and the traction end.
The everything end on these cars.
Yeah, so don't want to hurt that out there. And thankfully, it looks like for Boomsma, he hasn't hurt anything too much. That was a little wide from Ericsson. That slows him down once more. Boomsma, potentially the quicker of the two, as he's run him down in just a few laps time.
And that's what makes that move into Griffin's Bend a handful of laps ago so interesting. It seemed kind of desperate out of Boomsma. I wonder if he's a little bit more patient now that he's caught him. But just like an elephant, Joe, race car drivers never forget what happened earlier in the race.
Certainly. 3 laps left to go on this one. And they still have more races to try and sort this out after this, too. So I think we got a rivalry brewing here. Don't know if he's close enough to dive up the inside again this time, but we could see him yet gain more time up over the hill, and by that point into the chase, he could be within range. It's down to now less than half a second between them.
I've talked a few times about how I think Boomsma's mindset is behind the wheel right now. What do you think Ericsson's mindset is? Do you think he knows that some contact is coming, or do you think he's mainly just focused on putting down the laps?
I think he's ripped off that rear mirror and he's trying to go as quick as he can to stay away from Ericsson. But yeah, I bet you he expects something considering how rough the racing was between them as this four-way battle carries on. Kinchlow just behind Ludwig and actually almost pushing him. He's bump drafting up the mountain straight.
And remember, it was Kinch that pushed Ernie past Hogg the prior lap. So I wonder if these two are just kind of working together a little bit of some side-to-side movement there through Griffin's Bend, but there's the big curb there on Apex. I just think that they're trying to work together to try to run as fast as possible. It's just, it requires a lot of cooperation, and just hopefully they're both on the same page.
Touring cars are practically like the NASCAR of road racing. Rubbin is racing on this side, and drivers are not afraid of getting little bits of contact here and there. Unfortunately for these drivers, they are well off of P9 at this stage. Go Lightly is way up the road, so it's not going to be much more than deciding their starting position in heat number 4, which they'll go get covered on Radeon. Here we go, down for the lead with now 2 laps to go, and Boomsma is within range.
Watching this battle, I think the biggest 2 driving style differences that I've noticed is that Boomsma is really aggressive on the entry half of the corner. Now, it can cost him on the back half, and we've seen it a few times through the chase where he runs 2 wheels off on the exit. As long as he's able to keep the entry under control, I do feel like he's the faster car. He just has to get up there and get close enough to make the move. Don't get too aggressive too early.
Michael Hogg side by side here with Hampton coming down into the chase. Hogg round the outside. He's going to get that one done. Josh falls back to 15th once again. That pulls them away from Kinchlow and Ludwig and their battle. So they'll separate at least momentarily. Not many laps left to go as we come back to Baker and Blomqvist.
Contact between Boomsma and Ericsson in the cutting right there. Thankfully, Ericsson was able to keep it straight, but let me tell you, Joe, front right to left rear on our leader there, that was almost disaster with walls on both sides.
Exactly. I said it's tough to try and pass here on this portion of the lap. These guys know that, but it doesn't mean they aren't willing to give it a shot. Back to Daniel once again. David still ahead of him, a little bit farther away than what Ericsson and Boomsma were with one another. Let's take a look at that contact. Talk us through it, Joey.
So this is coming up the hill. We had just come out of turn 2 going into the cutting here. So Boomsma is just going to send it up the inside, gets into the quarter panel, almost into the wheel there. And there was contact. You saw the big slide from Ericsson, but no position change. The fight goes on.
That was Jesper using that front wheel drive to great effect there. That's one of the things that always looks so fun, but I guess is a bit simpler, Joey, is you got to just keep that foot down.
Yeah, you know, you're used to a rear-wheel drive car and having to counter steer as well as using your accelerator. Oh my goodness, and Marlar just smacks the wall again. That's not going to help him. He's in the 10th place. He's trying to overtake for 9th, and that's the second time we've seen him smack that wall.
Exactly. Ooh, this is getting close for third. Podium position for race one here, potentially. Baker ahead of Blomqvist. Not able to try and send one up the inside of Murray's corner. But now that it's the final lap, will he get a little bit more desperate?
I always try to give racing drivers too much credit here, Joe. Like fourth place and third place, Baker and Blomqvist here, they've advanced in. As long as you're in the top 9, how much is Blomqvist going to be aggressive in trying to get around this car right in front of him, knowing that here at Bathurst, you got walls everywhere? This could end really bad when you almost got it wrapped up.
Risk versus reward. What is it going to be worth? And so we might want to check out the leaders as well, because Boomsma is very close to the back of Ericsson once again. Well, maybe not. Let's not leave this quite yet. Side by side coming up the hill into the cutting. Inside for Baker. Will that be an advantage, or will he be pinched down? No, he's going to be able to pull back ahead of Daniel.
And he doesn't do the over-under, so no sort of run going up the mountain. Now this is the lead. Boomsma is all over the back of Ericsson as we reach the top of the mountain, go over the crest pretty much right here. And all of a sudden, Joe, we've only got half a lap remaining.
Brian was so much stronger off the cutting. That's why he suddenly caught up to him so quickly as they come back down the hill. Now, is he, don't bump draft here, he says on the back, and or it says bump draft here, but maybe not through this portion. They're going to make little touches down through. It's not over yet.
And into Forrest elbow. There's a bigger hit trying to move him off of the line. So Boomsma is now side by side. A door bang from Ericsson, but honestly, Joe, I think that was a little early. Ericsson's in a great pace to repay the favor.
Tit for tat from them. This is going to get spicy. And this is only race one. We got 2 more to go after this one. Ericsson closing in on him. Is he going to use the bumper and move him out of the way? Down into the chase, covering the inside. Boomsma tries to defend. Round the outside, cutting back underneath. Can't get the over-under. He does get the exit. He'll switch back. Now it's going to be on the right-hand side. Coming down into Murray's. Ericsson's got one more shot. He's going to switch back to the inside late. He decides against it as Boomsma will cover the inside once again. It's a race to the line, but it's not enough as Boomsma will take the win, and it is a mere 1/10 of a second at the line.
And then this is that transfer battle back here. So Tom Guest currently in 8th, Mike Golightly back in 9th, Henderson right there in front of him in 7th. So these cars, even though they're a little bit further back, will transfer on.
Yep, Golightly is going to be able to get through. So Marlar just shy of it. He gave it a good go. Definitely was trying hard. But those touches with the wall maybe kind of did him in. Kinchlow, meanwhile, with Hampton, they're going to go wheel to wheel down into the chase. Kinch goes a little bit too far and off into the grass. That's going to slow him up. Joss has a shot to try and steal it down at the line.
This is into Murray's corner, and look at how deep Kinchlow takes it. And oh, the Audi all over the back. I'm sorry, the Hyundai, but Kinchlow is going to hang on to 12th. Josh Hampton finishing 13th.
So they cross the line. All 17 will finish, so good to see all drivers get through. But Matt Gelder will be a minute and a half behind the leaders once he reaches Ryan Walker. Going to be wondering what could have been as he falls from 8th down to 16th, losing out on the transfer on this one. He could still show up back at race 3. And we're going to take a quick break. We'll come back, of course, with race number 2, as well as our championship standings here in a moment. As well. Welcome back to Bathurst. We just watched race 1 of round 4 in the majors. It's TCR Australia that we're running this time out. And the championship is always a part of this, but we have to remember that the points only get awarded in race 3. So for this Atlantic, as they do have the Pacific, which happened last night, of course, the driver Jesper Eriksson, who fought hard for that potential win last time, was not able to take it, but he's came in leading in the points. Jeff Schmeier is in second behind him with Garen Batten, also not here today in third. Holmer is here, but he didn't have that great of a run last time, although he was able to finish in fifth, so he will advance into this race. Lynn Kinchlow did not, unfortunately, so he might find himself dropping down unless he can get back in for race 3, where they will award those points. Baker only 2 points behind them, tied with Ray Partridge, with, of course, Sam Harper only 3 more back from that. Wallet, haven't seen him here in this race yet. Bloomquist, we did, who could use a good result, as he is down to 10th coming into this round. That's the driver standings. They also have a teams championship here, Joey.
Right now, it is Force Esports leading the way, a mere 1 point shy of 100 points over Fusion Gold out there, and then a little bit of a bigger gap to Grizzly TFR sitting there in the third place position. About a 75-point gap between third and fourth to Dog Bear Bite. Udox Gooby, a bigger gap, about 400 points outside of that fourth place position. Then another decent-sized gap back to the 6th, 7th, and 8th. That's Easy Grass, Yorkshire in 6th, Sapphire SimSport Atlantic in 7th, and then Evolve SimSports Atlantic rounding out the 8 teams here in the standings.
Now, we're in the midst of warm-up for this race. If you see some new faces, as we mentioned, only the top 9 of that first race advanced. So there are drivers who have come up from the other heat that was happening simultaneously that will now compete in this one. The goal, ultimately, to make it to race number 3, and the top 15 in this race will make it through. So it is a much bigger number, but that now means at the back of the pack, there is going to be a lot more fierce fighting to avoid getting shunted down into the lower heat for the final race of this one. Joey, this has been an absolute joy covering this style of racing, and I'm really glad that I have your expertise, because you've raced not quite TCR cars, but the front wheel drive Jettas in your career. So you kind of have experience of what these guys are up against.
Yeah, the TCR cars are a little bit more advanced than the front-wheel drive cars or the Jettas that I got to drive way back in the day, but they're basic. You know, they really are based off of a production-based car that you can go out there and buy. They're Hondas, they're Audis, they're Hyundais. So, yes, it is meant to race on Sunday and sell on Monday. The characteristics of the cars, they're easy to get along with, right? With the front-wheel drive nature, you don't have too many huge moments of oversteer. You can kind of get away with a lot of different stuff, but the biggest thing that's the difference, I think the contact areas rubbing is racing in TCR cars or just all of touring cars. So contact, it's part of the sport. And then the slides that the cars have, it is totally different than what you see out of an open wheel car, an all-wheel drive car, or even a rear wheel drive car. When these drivers get all sorts of out of shape, oftentimes they just plant their right foot on the gas, point the steering wheel where the car needs to go, and all of a sudden, miraculously, the thing points out straight, and all of a sudden you're shooting down the racetrack again. Just a very different style of race car. You can get away with a lot, but also just be wary of the understeer if you go charging into the corners too fast. That is the general characteristic of front-wheel drive.
Cardamone's one of those that's going to be joining us this time, as he got promoted from the lower heat last time. Go Lightly managing to advance through into this one as he takes one of the fastest laps in the short warm-up that they have. The other thing, you know, you mentioned the rubbing is racing out here, but we had an interesting talk over the break there about what was going on between Jesper and Boomsma. And you had mentioned they seem close on pace, and that might make things interesting if they wind up together in this one.
Racing drivers, they never forget what happened earlier in the day, whether it's heat races, practice, or even on pit lane. And Boomsma and Ericsson, they got into it a little bit. I think it was Ericsson that kind of moved Boomsma out of the way initially, and then Boomsma went back there, paid the favor back in the cutting, and then also paid it back going down into Forrest's elbow and whatnot, and then got the elbows out with the blocking into the chase. So rubbing is racing. We've already seen it in the first heat. I'm sure it's not going to end right there. We're going to see it all day long, and man, you better be fast out there, because I've always been taught if you're going to rub somebody for a position, you better be able to run away from them.
And it doesn't seem like either of them really have that pace advantage over one another, so it could get fun. But if you're sitting in third place and those two are leading, I mean, this is Bathurst. If this boils over, I mean, that might end their race, or at least send them here to pit lane, where they must take a spare car to be able to finish the event. And then they likely won't be able to advance on into the main race. So they have to keep it in check today.
The walls are incredibly close here. And not only the side-by-side stuff allows other people to close it in, but just TCRs in general, they're so evenly matched that you can do lots of over-unders, you can do lots of side-by-side racing, and then you start to climb up these heats, Joe, where they get more and more competitive. That just means the drivers, they're closer and closer in terms of that lap time stack. It can get really, really busy here at Bathurst.
Clock ticking down to 0 now, so we're going to be at it once again. And the other thing that I think is also kind of unique about these cars that we don't get to see as much, especially over here in North America, is the standing starts, Joey. They hopefully practice those.
I love standing starts. I got to do some standing starts back in the World Challenge days and the Speed World Challenge days, and they were a riot. Now, there was multi-class, which provided a whole different thing of challenges, but here, all front-wheel drive cars, all TCR, and you just got to limit the wheel spin.
All right, drivers are now gridding up. Now, this is going to be split some because we have those new drivers in. Boomsma will start on pole. McKenzie will be next to him, advancing up from the previous heat as Jesper Eriksson starts third and Fredriksson fourth. David Baker will be P5 and Elias Roman joins us in sixth. Bloomquist down to seventh as Akison will be next to him in eighth. Homer ninth and Hyde will round out your top 10.
And the number 56 and 11th is Cloud Belval. Cedric Holmbum here in 12th. Travis Henderson in 13th. Gary Thomas starting 14th. Jeff Cardamome in 15th. Tom Guest 16th. And then the final two is Mike Golightly and Jeff Schmeier.
All right, so drivers are on the grid. I think they're just about ready. And indeed, looks like the revs are now coming up as the lights are there, ready to give them the green. Green flag is out, and they fly towards the first corner. It looks like McKenzie also, once again, a little bit better. I wonder if that racing line is better with the rubber down, because twice now the leader has not seemed to go as quickly. Boomsma, once again, under threat early as McKenzie looks around the outside.
Logan is in that yellow car, so he's on driver's left, and he's got the head of steam coming out of turn number 1. Can he get the move done before the brake zone of turn 2? We've seen Boomsma be so aggressive on the front half of the corner, and we remember we got cold tires. Boomsma's going to throw it up the inside, just a little bit of rub, but he hangs on to the lead.
Eriksson wants at him. He's going to give a bit of a push here to the back of McKenzie, who we ride on board with as they enter the cutting. Top 5 cars, all Elantras. It seems to be the favorite here today as they come through the cutting and into quarry now. Thankfully, it looks like this one may be a little bit better than what we saw at the start of the first race.
Really, for the most part, all the way single file as we continue to climb up to the tallest point here on the mountain. These fast sweeping left-handers, got to be careful of both the exit curbs and the apex curbs here. Don't upset the car. And now through Skyline, start to tip it down the mountain. But remember, the dipper right here, so tricky on that first lap with cold tires.
And I spoke too soon. Henderson and Golightly with contact in the cutting. Both of them carry on, but they both were in the wall after that one. David Baker back here in the 6th spot. Highest car that isn't an Elantra, and the Veloster still Hyundai. Basically everybody down to 14th right now. Definitely the brand that's doing well. A little wide there for Akison. He's going to lose out to Homer, his fellow Swede.
Oh my goodness. I don't know if you caught that out of Atkinson. Oh, we got a big problem out of Forest Elbow. I believe that's Cardamone and Gary Thomas that's involved. It's Gary Thomas that stopped on the racetrack.
Almost rolling over, and Cardamone flashing the lights, clearly displeased about what just went down. We don't know what caused that, and unfortunately, Gary has to take a tow.
I was going to say that Atkinson save out of the elbow. We're going to get the GSRC replay of exactly what happened to Travis Henderson earlier on in the lap. So this is coming up through the cutting. He's on the outside, and oh, just a little bit of contact there, and they're both hard into the wall.
It's hard to go too wide through that corner, and they discovered just how hard, unfortunately. So looks like they'll pay for that one, although picking up a few positions because of further wrecks. Remember, it's top 15. Cardamone is in that spot right now, and he's kind of all by himself there in the background.
Yeah, we've got 18 cars in the race, the top 15 advance, and kind of the top 4 or 5 are straggling on the back of things. So I have a feeling as long as you're in this pack right here, you're good to go. But how much can you keep your kind of emotions under check if you're in that big pack? Looks like we're going to get another GSRC replay. Oh, that was the impact with Gary Thomas. I wasn't even sure if he knew that other car was off to the right side, but definitely not space for 2.
And somebody absolutely snuck through there. I'm not sure who that was, but just had to go to the grass and pray that there was enough space between himself and Gary Thomas as we check back in with Jesper Eriksson. Well, the rivalry between himself and Boomsma has been put on ice a bit as Eriksson actually goes off course briefly.
I'm sorry to interrupt you there. I thought for sure he was wrecking it, but that front-wheel drive characteristic was able to just straighten out the car perfectly, but he was full 4 wheels off at the fastest part of this racetrack, not where you want to be.
Yeah, I'm glad you said something. I was looking elsewhere at the time, and just a fantastic job keeping that thing pointed straight as they now fly down Conrad, and that has separated themselves. McKenzie is about half a second off of Boomsma. He could still attack for the win as Eriksson finds himself back by almost a second. Meanwhile, back in ninth, Hyde chasing and attacking on Melvin.
Yeah, so Hyde is going to be to drivers left here in that green car coming into the chase here. Looks like Atkinson will say, you know what, you can have that spot. Something I was going to say about Melvin earlier in the race, Joe, coming down the hill for the first time. He looked like a straight-up Formula drift car doing a reverse entry into Forest Elbow and somehow didn't hit any walls or any cars. It was crazy to see.
And that battling, look at how much it's stacking up those behind him. Holboom, Holmer, it looks like Belval, Guest, all trying to see if they could size up the car ahead, including Belval taking a peek down into Hell Corner, decides to get back in line. What's going to erupt this time?
So Boomsma has Logan McKenzie all over the back. Is Logan going to push? He's going to go out to driver's left. I don't think this is an opportunity to pass here into Griffin's Bend. And Boomsma really squeezes him out to the driver's left side of the track. And that's just posturing by Boomsma. You saw the headlight flash. I don't think that Logan really appreciated that.
Yeah, I think Logan disagrees with you. That seems like a passing spot for him. Didn't quite work out, and now it's put him in the clutches of Eriksson. Is Eriksson also going to get the Chrome Horde out on this one? We've got another replay that we're going to spool up here. Let's see which incident we've got. This is Cardamone in the midst of that big wreck. We're going to watch from his perspective.
Oh, and yeah, that was when the 19 car came over on Cardamone. So I think Cardamone trying to do an over-under, but also stay on the right side. And then also Gary Thomas knew he got a poor exit. And there is those 2 cars weaving their way through. That was really close.
Great stuff from them, whoever it was. Maybe that'll advance them through into the feature here, because Cardamone's still sitting in 15th. I think that may have been Jeff Schmeier, one of those that somehow got through there. Back to Belval. Oh, bad exit. I think maybe a hit to the wall for Holmboom.
And that's going to allow Holmer up the inside here. So the 987 goes right on by the number 18. And Actually, I'd be watching out for Cloud Belval right there in that turquoise car. He's got a nice run on Cedric here going into the chase. Let's see if he can do anything about it. It's all about putting your car in the right spot here in the big brake zone and not going to make the lunge this time.
Goes back to the racing line once again, a little off track from Holmer in front of them. That's going to give an opportunity to Cedric in the number 18. He thinks about it, then decides against it. Maybe he wants a better run up the mountain straight instead so that he can't get attacked back.
And it's an interesting predicament, I feel like, this group of cars is in. The further forward you get, the better off you are in terms of the starting grid, but you've also advanced in, so how aggressive do you want to be when you're all stacked up in a train? What is this, 5, 7 cars deep? You don't want to lose touch, but at the same time, you want to race.
Got another look at an incident here earlier on, and this is Jesper Eriksson. I understand he hit the wall, and did you see this, Joey?
Yes, and I wonder if this is another... Oh, so that was when he went 4 wheels off at the top of Skyline when I thought he was going to wall it. And then down here into Forest Elbow, I wonder if this is the same lap, but he just has a huge moment of understeer. And if it's not the same lap, I can describe it. It's just a big moment of understeer through Forest Elbow and smacks the wall on exit, coming out onto the Conrad straightaway.
Yeah, because I did notice that a second lap in a row, he had a bit of an off at that same spot at McPhillamy Park. So it seems to be his racing line, apparently, as Tom Guest back here in 13th, still chasing on Belval. Now, the good news is for these drivers, some of the drama has been taken out for that cut line. Henderson, Golightly, and Thomas are all 30 seconds or more back. But what it does mean is if they decide to battle, Joey, they have to make sure that it's a high percentage move, because if they wreck the car, they give away what would be an easy advancing spot.
And that's what I'm talking about is... If you're one of these drivers like Tom Guest, like Schmeier, like Belval, that's kind of sitting here in the 12th, 13th, 14th, yes, you're going to advance to the next heat. You might not be as confident as what you want to on the racetrack. So those moves that you want to make a pass, how confident are you in order to keep it off of the wall? Because if you do make a wall hit, Joe, like you said, all of a sudden you could not be advancing anymore.
Oscar Fredrickson on the back of his teammate is Eriksson with, I think that contact maybe lost a little bit of pace. He's already a 1.5 seconds behind the top two. McKenzie, who made that attempt a little bit earlier to try and pass on Boomsma, may have found it to be a critical moment in this race, because he also is having trouble keeping up with him. Has backed off a bit. We've got 7 laps to go. Not sure if the complexion is going to change back to some more excitement for the lead, but as it stands, Boomsma is looking a little bit more comfortable now.
I think what we saw in Heat 1 was the 17 car of Boomsma, probably the fastest car on the racetrack. Remember, he kind of got shuffled back about 1.5 seconds behind Eriksson at one point, and then he crawled it back and ultimately claimed that victory. So Boomsma being out front in clean air without a ton of pressure, it could just mean extending the gap. And for Boomsma, that's great. That's great momentum going into that final heat. That's what you want, is to basically stand up there, say, hey, I am the fastest. Nobody's going to beat me today.
Jeff Schmeier making a move on Tom Guest to put himself a little bit farther away from that cut line. That's up to 13th for him. This is Boomsma versus McKenzie here. And Boomsma, another one of those drivers hailing from the Benelux Club, while McKenzie from Club Georgia over here in North America, trying to represent the American side of things, but they're both down under right now. And, oh, that was a little wide there, but I think Logan kept it off the wall, but it looks sketchy.
And it cost him a few tenths of a second. You're right. He's fallen back to about 8 tenths right now. So as long as he's within that 1 second going out onto the Conrad straightaway, which Boomsma gets a terrific exit and gaps it out to about 1.1, that's what he needs to keep doing. If you can break the slipstream at Bathurst, it's just kind of demoralizing for everybody behind. It is tough to catch at that point.
Definitely a very different chemistry in this race compared to before, where we saw drivers just going at it hammer and tongs all race long. This one, they seem to be struggling to stick with one another, although Fredrickson doing what he can to keep his teammate honest for that podium position. And we'll see how they wind up come race number 3. Belval has definitely been giving us some fun today. Now he's caught up to the number 18.
Yeah, so that's Cedric right in front of him, and got two of Cedric's buddies trying to pull him along, but it feels like Holbom is just kind of fallen off of that 3-car train of his teammates. So yeah, Belval's going to be looking down to the inside, nowhere close enough to make a move there into turn number 1, but just trying to get a clear line of sight, maybe push Holbom off of the racing line. And check that, he got a poor exit out of turn number 1, so Belval just starts to crawl it back a little bit more. If he keeps up, soon enough you'll be on the back bumper, and then maybe that opportunity will come.
Right now, this is going to be a huge day for that Force Esports team, because you can see they have a lot of them out here, and they are scoring major points. They're already in the lead in the team's championship. Fusion Gold, highest driver in the team points is, or driver points, is Garrett Batten, and I don't think we've got him in this one, unfortunately.
Joe, that might be why they're competing in the majors if they're trying to score, wouldn't you say? Major points?
Yeah, good call on that one. And Oscar Fredrickson here is getting very close to Jesper now. Will there be any team orders on this if he feels like he's quicker than that 37? Because maybe Oscar could go chase down Logan.
Well, and we actually have Elias Roman joining the party right behind Fredrickson. So to your point, is Ericsson slowing down Fredrickson enough that he's actually going to become under pressure from a car behind it? And if that's the case, if your teammates, you got to get on the radio and be like, hey, bud, you're holding me up. I need to go, and this is your battle to fight.
Absolutely. And as they pick up speed down Conrad, they'll separate slightly. So I guess Jesper's straight line speed not hampered after his damage, but certainly looks like once they get onto the mountain, each time that 955 car gets very, very close to the rear end of his fellow Swede. They'll keep it within the boundaries coming down through the chase this time as we check back in on Akison and Holmer. This is for 9th position.
Feed it through the switchbacks after the chase here, and then come up to the final turn. Turn 23, Murray's corner, always deceptively simple, right? I always blow this corner. It looks like 90 degrees, but you got the apex curve, all sorts of stuff going on. And then the same thing with Hell's corner right up here. It is just so deceptively simple. You look at it and you're like, oh, I got it, just a simple 90. No, it is much more than that.
Yeah, I always screw it up. But Murray's corner is the bane of my existence, honestly. And it's, of course, the last one, so I always screw up a good lap time in qualifying. But Fredrickson, again, look at him. He just gains right back up on top of him, but he's got no place to go through here.
So let's crawl into the helmet. Let me ask you, Joe, if you were Fredrickson being tied up behind your teammate, are you okay playing blocker and taking home 3rd and 4th going into the final heat knowing you're advancing? Or do you want to get up there and see if you can catch Logan McKenzie there in 2nd place, because he has fallen off of our leader?
I think I would probably, if I was in communication with Jesper, and maybe this is because I'm too nice, I would ask him if he feels like he's struggling a bit. Because if he says, yes, I've got damage, or the handling is off, or I'm lacking speed, ask him if he'd be willing to let me by. But if he feels like everything's okay, then I'd say, okay, well, fair enough. You know, he got there how he got there, and I'll just have to pass him the hard way.
I agree with you, and I think that's the beauty of having teammates and being on the same radio channels, that you can have the same plan of attack, and as long as you're on the same page, you're able to maximize your pace, maximize your strategy. And I think that Ericsson is doing a plenty fine job. His last lap time was a 2:20.4. You know, Fredrickson right behind him, a 2:20.3. However, our leader, a 2:19.9. So Boomsma, by far the fastest car on the racetrack. And the other cars, they're not up to pace.
Yeah, Brian has definitely been one to catch this time. Holmer is going to catch up to Akison and actually give him a little bit of a tap to try and speed both of them up down Conrad into the chase. Oh, I think Ericsson just let Fredrickson by just now.
Oh, and then here comes Roman up the inside there, sneaking in. So talk about stealing away another position. Joe, what happened was Ericsson went wide into the chase, all four wheels off, had a slowdown penalty, had to give it back to Fredrickson, and Elias Roman said, you know what, I see an open door, I'm going to throw it in there, and it worked out.
Nicely done. Now he's got to get up to Oscar, see if maybe he could take a podium. Let's take a look at it on the replay. Here's Jesper down into the chase. Remember, you're coming in at a high speed into there, and just a little bit too much. He took the safe route, but that means you've cut the course, and as we know in iRacing, you have to automatically give some time back.
And watch this white car. He just throws it up the inside of Murray's corner, and he makes the pass stick out a little bit wide at apex, but hey, you know what? That's a nice pass.
Absolutely. And I got to say, I do dig Elias's paint scheme. That feels very kind of 90s, early 2000s touring car to me.
You know what it kind of reminds me of is John Elway throwing one of those Nerf footballs, that orange and blue.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a good way to put it with the Denver Broncos paint scheme going on. But Roman hailing from the Atlantic Club, so not sure if that's got other meaning for him. Oh, he's very wide coming down into the dipper, though. He doesn't lose the spot, but that was almost disaster there.
It was, and he's a little bit wide on all of these entries, and a little bit of a rub from Ericsson through for his elbow, and then a smack of the wall from Ericsson coming out onto the Conrad straightaway. We're going to see if that affects the top-end speed at all, but I just felt like Elias was all over the place on the entries of the corner, and that is what allowed Ericsson to close that gap.
Jesper feels like he is struggling this race. Multiple contacts with the wall, cut course penalty, falls back to fifth after he was fighting for the win in the last race. He's going to try and do his best to get back up in there. Looks like Fredrickson now making that same mistake, dipping the wheels into the grass.
And remember, Ericsson got his elbows out in the first heat, so with him falling back so much here in this second race, you wonder, does he want to move a car out of the way? You know, with TCR cars, it's part of the sport. You don't want to go up there and literally shove somebody, but you don't want to keep falling backwards.
Just want to rattle his cage, right? So he'll see if he can get up there and give him a little bit of a hello, get him offline and try and get through. But for now, he's still stuck. Poor Roman is a bit of a sandwich here, unfortunately, as he's stuck between two Swedes on the same team. And we watch from Jesper Ericsson, not close enough to touch this time, maybe into the cutting, though.
A little bit of a run. This is a risky move if you poke the nose down the inside. Nice job. They're just going to stay single file for now. And if these two start battling, that understeer always scares me if it's going to hit the wall or not. But David Baker and Daniel Blomqvist not very far behind Ericsson.
Certainly, yeah, this is kind of backing all of them up as Boomsma and McKenzie just run away from the field. Look at them clobber these curbs as we ride on board. They can take a lot, these front-wheel drive cars, riding up to the outside of McPhillamy Park and then over the blind crest. You talked about the wide line that we keep getting from Roman that just about opened the door.
And let's see if he does the same thing here. Last lap he did, he stuck it all the way out driver's left. No, a little bit more on line, but posturing into Forrest's elbow, a little bit of a shove from Ericsson. It doesn't look like either of them hit the wall, so it's a drag race out onto the Conrad straightaway, and I can say that Baker and Blomqvist are there.
I mean, he gave him just the right amount of contact. He pushed him wide, but that slowed Jesper up too, so he couldn't do anything to capitalize on it in the moment. And Droman stayed out of the wall, so he's gonna, I'm sure he's remembering that himself as we check back in on more of these Forza esports drivers, all in a trio coming down towards the chase now.
Just line up your brake marker. You're going so fast down the hill the entire time and get it flowing through this section. And these cars right here, they are safe. You got to go all the way back to Jeff Cardamone in 15th. That is going to be the last car to advance into that final race here today. And as we see Jeff on the screen, he's just kind of out there turning laps. There's nobody directly in front of him. I think he's got about 40 seconds behind him to Travis Henderson. So as long as he keeps it off of the wall, he's A-okay.
Exactly. Yeah, Henderson is not really a threat there. He can take the safest racing line possible and still come home into the transfer position, just scraping through into the main race where they will score points towards the championship. Of course, this is also a series where each race is kind of its own environment, and it goes towards bragging rights. In fact, you can win a coin each race for taking a victory out there. So they have physical collector's items that you can win for taking a win in the Atlantic and Pacific regions.
And keeping a little bit of an eye on that lead battle between Boomsma and McKenzie here. As we jump back, this is still the closest battle on the racetrack. This is about 5 cars all arguing for what is third place position. Fredrickson currently holds it. Elias Roman is in that white car. Ericsson is given chase. And Joe, 3 laps in a row, that same super wide entry into the dipper.
Yeah, it's very curious because I've never seen someone do that, as he almost looked like defensive down into Forrest Elbow as well. This is much closer for Ericsson. He's going to get a big toe down Conrad. Question is, can he get side by side and then outbrake him into the chase?
Just stay right in the tire tracks. You'll eventually start to close it in. With these production cars, the draft effect isn't quite as much, but now you're right there that you can make a lunge. Looks like he's going to look driver's left is Ericsson. Can he outbrake him side by side? No contact. Oh, a little bit of a door bang there at Apex, and it looks like Roman's going to hang on to it for now. Watch out, though. White and red, David Baker coming, making a charge.
We'll look around the outside into Murray's corner as Jesper goes defensive into there. He's got a nose ahead. Baker makes himself open to attack as Blomqvist. Oh, no, he's going to get turned, actually, on the front straight. I thought he was through. And David Baker will retain the spot, but my goodness, some of these drivers are having none of these attacks.
Yeah, and we are on the last lap now, so Brian Boomsma's just got to get up and down the mountain one more time. That was a little bit of a questionable move on the front straightaway, if you ask me.
Yeah, I think that was kind of a theme that we've had this race, honestly. Miscommunication, because how many of our wrecks have happened down a straight or into a braking zone where drivers just kind of fade into one another?
One thing that we haven't talked about the majors much yet, Joe, is that it's always different cars, right? And in TCR cars, you have a lot of time to think about where you want to put the car, and maybe it's just trying to side draft and not knowing exactly where those corners are. And unfortunately, here at Mount Panorama, the walls are really close too.
Exactly. And yeah, I was thinking about that earlier. What a contrast. Last round, it was Lotus 49's vintage F1 cars at the Nürburgring. And here you've got TCR cars at Bathurst. Both tracks are diabolical, but the cars could not be any more different.
We watch Boomsma come through Forrest Elbow here for the final time, keeps it off of the wall. Logan McKenzie was able to close it up quite a bit here in the final lap. You see him about 3/4 of a second there behind, but I have a feeling as long as Boomsma keeps it clean through this final section, he should collect another win.
Yep, this has been a great run. He had to get his elbows out a little bit there, but once he rebuffed Logan, it just hasn't been able to get close enough to try and threaten him once again. Is he good through? Oh, he's a little slow actually coming through the chase. I wonder if maybe he got over eager into the corner with this being the last lap, or if he was too timid into there in comparison. Now through Murray's corner, all he has to do is bring it around to the checkered flag, and he is good. Brian Boomsma, back-to-back wins on this one, as Logan McKenzie will come home less than a second behind.
And then we see Fredrickson in third, and I can say that Elias Roman was just barely able to hang on over Ericsson there in the number 37.
Hyde also leading a bunch of cars as Atkinson and Homer came home behind him. Holmboom as well ahead of Belval and Schmeier very close at the line. And then Cardamone going to be a bit of ways back, but our last driver to advance to the main race is Jeff here coming to the line now. Okay, so that is going to wrap up our second race. We'll have one more coming your way soon. First, though, let's go over our finishing results for this one. As we said, Boomsma taking the victory over Logan McKenzie by only 0.7 of a second. Oscar Fredrickson climbed home into a podium position 6 seconds behind them. Elias Roman beat Jesper Eriksson to fourth as Jesper takes fifth today after he came home second, fighting for the win last time. He'll still advance. Baker was sixth and Bloomquist was P7. Then it was Jacob Hyde finishing eighth today as Melvin Atkinson wound up in ninth and Daniel Homer rounds out your top 10.
Then Cedric Holbom back here in 11th. Cloud Belval finishes in 12th. Jeff Schmeier in 13th, up 5 positions. So nice of him to get up into that transfer position. Tom Guest 14th. And Jeff Cardamone, like you were saying, Joe, is going to be the last of the 15 drivers to advance into the final race. Travis Henderson, Mike Golightly, Gary Thomas are unfortunately going to have to call it a day.
What's interesting, getting information from our friends over at Radeon, the three that are joining were 3 drivers that were in the first race: Marlar, Josh Hampton, and Ryan Walker. So glad to see them be able to make it back in. We'll come back with the final race of this series of 3 after this. Welcome back to Mount Panorama Circuit. We're getting ready for the last race of 3 here in TCR Australia for the majors. But before we get to the racing, we do want to mention one of the main sponsors of the majors, which is, of course, the Majors Garage, home of free Baseline Plus setups. Get help from any of the garage coaches 24/7. Sign up now for awesome, affordable monthly subscriptions, telemetry, coaching, and more by simply clicking on a link in the description below. Also, if you use our special discount code MajorsGSRC, you'll get 10% off. And appropriately, as we always have a charity in these races, for this one, it is the Men's Health Trust New Zealand, and that was established in 2007. Their purpose is to support men in New Zealand with their health and well-being via 3 key initiatives: Soul Brothers, Checkmates, and Goodfellas. They believe in partnerships and collaborate with like-minded organizations who also support and drive men's health and well-being in New Zealand and around the world. For more information, check our link in the description below. And we've got our 18 drivers now signing up. As we mentioned, we're going to be joined once again by Marlar, Hampton, and Walker, managing to re-qualify their way in to the main race. So crisis averted there, Joey, but now they've got to perform and likely going to be coming from the back of the field too.
Yeah, it's going to be another uphill climb, literally, here at Mount Panorama. Thankfully, you get to go downhill down the other half. But I think when we look at the sharp end of the field, I'm looking towards Boomsma, right? He won the first 2 heats that we were watching out here. He's clearly been the fastest car of the weekend. Can he get it done when it counts?
And you can see we've got relatively warm temperatures, 97 Fahrenheit or 36 Celsius on the track surface. It's not something that we've touched on a lot so far, and interesting that it is warmer since it's become overcast for this 3rd race, Joey. But you talked about how these cars do all the work with the front end. How much, I mean, if it's really, really warm, how much do you think that's going to affect them over the course of 11 laps? Do they need to preserve those front tires a little bit just to make sure that they've got something for the end?
I don't think that I would be worried about the tire fall off per se. I think when I look at the temperature, what I would be more worried about, Joe, is just kind of the overall grip level that you've been used to. And if it's warmer, it's going to be less. We've seen lots of cars understeer out into the walls on exit, specifically Forest Elbow. We've seen it lap after lap. If you misjudge that exit, you're going to understeer into the wall. If you have higher temperatures, well, you have even less grip. So you just have to be really, really careful. I wouldn't worry so much about the end of the race, just the overall grip and keeping it off of those walls.
Ryan Walker's story was definitely interesting in him making his way back in. He apparently wrecked on lap 1 and somehow made his way back through. I mean, very impressive considering you had to finish in the top 3 to get up there. But he's quite proud of himself for that one, and is at least going to be able to get into the big show as we watch Boomsma, who so far has won both of our races. Can he make it a 3-peat and sweep the event?
Let's add a little bit of drama to it, right? Boomsma has been the fastest, but he has not been the only car to go up there and race. As we watch him actually clip the wall going down, and this is just practice here, so this isn't qualifying, no big deal. But I was going to say, Boomsma has had his fair share of contact between Ericsson, also between Logan back there in that previous heat. So I wouldn't say that he is completely free and clear and out of the woods.
And you seem to think that the defense that he had on McKenzie wasn't all that kind coming up into Griffin's Bend when Logan tried to make that pass. Logan's going to be starting next to him, or well, close to him most likely. I assume it'll be on the front row. And will be more likely to be able to fight than Jesper Ericsson, who was fighting with him in the first one. Do you think Logan's going to be aggressive on this first lap to try and pay him back?
I think he has to be. I've said it a couple times. Boomsma's the fastest car. How are you going to pass the fastest car? Well, the standing start in the first half a lap is a great opportunity because you're lined up literally right next to him. So it could be your only opportunity if Boomsma starts to run away in clean air. So I think turn 1, turn 2, and even up into the cutting like we've seen on the first lap, they are all opportunities here in the TCR cars.
And as we mentioned last time, it seems the rubbered up racing line on the right-hand side for these standing starts does provide a bit of a good one for those who are starting on the even numbers. So Polsitter has gotten off poorly both times, but has at least been defending that pretty hardly down into turn 1. So maybe they'll be able to do it once again. Cardamone sneaking into this one is the only driver who set a time here in the warm-up. I don't think we'll get anybody else able to put one down from here, but Jeff also going to have to come from towards the back of the field. Had a bit of a bad start getting involved in an incident on that last race. So I'm sure he's going to be thinking, okay, let's just get past lap 1 this time.
One more pre-race note that I want to put out there is the cold tires. Now, not so much of a factor going down the hill, but we've seen lots of cars with the understeer in turn number 2, Griffin's Bend, kind of wash out early. If everybody's stacked up trying to be aggressive early on with these starts, that could be another area to watch out for.
Absolutely. So keep your eyes peeled. Could be a big danger zone for our drivers before they even get into the mountain proper, as it starts to narrow up. Looks like the car is getting ready to grid now, so let's go through our starting order for the last race of the night. Brian Boomsma will start on pole with Logan McKenzie next to him, as Oscar Fredrickson will start from 3rd. Roman will be P4, Jesper Eriksson in 5th, and David Baker P6. Then you've got Daniel Blomqvist in 7th, Jacob Hyde 8th, and Melvin Atkinson 9th. Daniel Holmer rounds out your top 10.
Cedric Holbom here in 11th, Cloud Belval starting 12th, Jeff Schmeier in 13th, Tom Guest in 14th, Jeff Cardamone in 15th, Kyle Marler starting 16th, Josh Hampton in 17th, and Ryan Walker 18th.
Revs are already up. The lights pop up for our final start of the night. What's it going to look like? Green flag is out. Boomsma looks like he's getting off initially well, and yes, he is going to be able to hold ahead of McKenzie this time. Fredrickson, though, under threat from Roman, coming around the outside of Hell Corner behind them. Everybody files in. So far, I'm not seeing any accidents, although a couple of them go wide into the grass.
Yeah, and it's too wide going up into Griffin's Bend. That's Elias Roman there on the inside trying to hold the track position. But I mentioned the cold tires going up here. It is so tricky on the first lap. Here it comes up into the right-hander. Can he hold the line? Yes, he does.
He's got a good exit, but he's got no place to take it. That's Fredrickson in front of him. Once again, he's got cars on either side, almost makes contact with Eriksson. He is going to make contact with Eriksson. Roman gets slid to the side. He straightens it out somehow. He'll carry on, but he loses a couple spots.
Used that right rear quarter panel against the wall and straightened it all out so he avoids disaster early on. But now I believe that's Blomqvist trying to take advantage, and he has got a train behind him. Look out, here comes Atkinson. Hyde is going to take advantage as well.
Oh, more contact. They're getting together. This time, I don't think he's going to save it. Both of them go around. One of the Force Esports cars also gets turned, and it's going to be a wreck down into McPhillamy Park. I think everybody managed to mostly avoid Holmer, but his car is looking secondhand.
I think it was a 3-car incident. Roman was involved back here, as well as a few others. I believe Daniel Homer and Jacob Hyde as well. All 3 found the wall.
Yeah, Homer hit it pretty hard, missing most of the back of it as he returns to the back of the field. Tom Guest now in 14th, chasing on Hampton as they'll exit out of the mountain section onto Conrad. Top 2 are still when did McKenzie get by Boomsma?
I just went back and looked. It was actually Boomsma that had a massive slide in the cutting, slid out wide, and McKenzie took advantage. And here we go, McKenzie off into the chase, and a big old door bang getting back onto the track. So the action is starting early.
Logan going to give it right back to him. I mentioned he's from Georgia. That is definitely NASCAR country. I'm sure he's willing and happy to try and give him just as much as he gets. Boomsma back up to the lead. Fredrickson catches up because of that. And guess who's going to join the party? Jesper Eriksson.
Yeah, they have flip-flopped around from the previous race here as we're going to get a GSRC replay. We start out lap number 2. So this was the incident between the 3 cars as we go up through the park section. Just too wide, and then ultimately I believe it was Hyde getting into Roman there. Those spin off to the inside, more contact with a 3rd car, and hard backed it into the wall.
credit to everybody behind. I don't know how they avoided. That's a fast corner coming into McPhillamy Park, and somehow they snuck around him despite him being practically on the racing line. Back to Schmeier now here, chasing on Cedric Holbom, trying to fight for ninth position. Behind them, that was Cardamon, I think, losing a spot to Ryan Walker.
I think Cardamon got the wall out of Griffin's Bend there, and you're right, Ryan Walker took advantage. So this is a 3-car train here. Jeff Schmeier in that 10th place position, chasing Holbom right in front of him, and he's got company also right behind. So go up through the park section as we're going to get another GSRC replay here. Feed into this one, see exactly where it happened. This is Boomsma, so watch the orange car. Look at this mega slide going into the cutting. Logan just takes advantage, slips right up the inside.
Wow, great stuff, although I'm sure he's frustrated now to know that he's no longer in the lead. Track position going to be so important here, especially on the top of the mountain. Back to Guest once again. Instead of attacking, he is now on defense. He's got Hampton and Marlar behind him.
Remember, Marlar got in off of that other heat, so he's trying to ride some momentum, keep these passes going as Tom Guest hangs out in 13th. A little bit of a no man's land right there.
Marlar, another one sporting kind of a very 90s looking paint scheme on that thing with the teal and purple. But Walker, man, what a recovery, getting bumped out of the feature races, coming back in, already has climbed up 7 positions. I mentioned he's got experience here on the touring car side, and he's making good use of it.
And I'm curious to see what the lap times are going to settle out into being, because I think that Ryan Walker has a few cars stacked up right in front of him by about 1 second each. He could go up there and keep on climbing the order as we check back in. Boomsma leading McKenzie over Fredrickson. Those are the cars 1, 2, 3.
I'm willing to bet you the gloves are off now. I don't think Logan took too kindly the way that he got put out of the lead there. He's keeping up with him. That's going to be job 1, though, because last time he got passed by Brian, or at least was rebuffed by him, he eventually lost track of him.
I think when I draw back to the second race that we covered with these same 2 cars out front, it was a little bit of a question mark for me, because Logan McKenzie had incredible speed, but he also didn't seem to have the consistency. He would jump out to about 1.5 seconds, and then he would close it back into 3/4 of a second. So maybe if Logan can keep it together and just string all of the laps together, we might have a really, really good fight in front.
Atkinson here, another of those 4C Sports cars behind his teammate Blomqvist. And only on lap 3 of this race, already feels like a race worth of incidents has happened out here. He's going to have to get a little bit closer than this if he wants to move himself into P6. Remember, this is where they score points, so every position will absolutely matter now.
The Dipper, continue down this very steep downhill, coming up to Forest Elbow. Look at how difficult it is to spot the apex. It is all the way around the corner there, so you can't even see it when you're on the brakes, and you just hope that you get on the gas early enough to get you the launch out, but not understeer you into the wall.
This is definitely a track from a bygone era. It's still extremely dangerous, but racers revel in trying to challenge the mountain. It looks like McKenzie's going to try and challenge Boomsma. Oh, is he going to get to the bumper? He was very close to it. I think he wanted to be.
We've seen a lot of varying apex speeds through that, call it turn 21, 22 complex. And I mean, we've seen a lot of cars run off wide on apex and exit too. So it'll be curious, you know, does Logan take advantage of it? Remember, we saw him 4 wheels off in that exact same section just a couple laps ago.
So Jesper Eriksson now taking fastest lap of the race back there. He's up to 4th position, a gain of 1 from where he started. Here we go again. Now, we've seen this story before. If McKenzie gets to his side, coming up into Griffin's Bend, Boomsma just kind of fed him out towards the wall. Will he be able to do the same this time, or has Logan got something else up his sleeve?
Usually a Tiger doesn't change his stripes out, Joe. So once again, just single file into turn number 2. Although Logan is going to look to the outside into the cutting. It's tough to do an over-under here. I think that's what he's planning on. No, just going to kind of hang out on the outside of the racetrack, keep that clean line of sight, get as close to that number 11 as he possibly can up the hill.
He did make contact, I'm pretty sure, going into Griffin's Bend. So he is trying to kind of nudge him around, see if he can get him off the racing line maybe. Figures if he can't do it with a straight up pass, maybe he can try to be a bit rough about it. But now he's got to be careful. Fredrickson on the back of him.
I think that's what Harry Hogg would say. That's a little bit of rubbing, Joe, and rubbing is racing.
Exactly. We don't have Hogg in this one anymore, unfortunately. So as they come down through the Dipper, ooh, it's getting very dark out there. Now, no rain for these cars on iRacing yet, so we don't have to worry about that. But maybe this will cool the track down even more, as it's down to about 87 Fahrenheit. Yeah, it's gone down quite a bit since we started this race.
And just to compare the lap times, most of the lap times in the previous couple heats have been in the 20s, occasionally in the 19s, but all four of our front runners are all doing 19s. Logan McKenzie was an 18.8 that last time by.
Wow. So, yeah, they're flying here. Jeff Schmeier, unfortunately, has Ryan Walker caught up to him already for this one. Let's see if he can maybe put some distance between himself and the Scotsman, because he's got Cedric in front of him, and he's close enough, but decides not to try and attack down into the chase. Meanwhile, looks like Atkinson and Baker are going to go wheel to wheel coming into Murray's corner. Baker breaks very early.
Just try to give that back up, look for a new opportunity, probably. That's the idea, but that actually falls him in the clutches of Cloud Belval, as this is our lead. I was keeping my eye on it, and McKenzie still all over the back of Boomsma. I think he's even closer here down the straightaway this time, but as we've seen, Boomsma just takes the right side of the road. McKenzie's going to go off the left, and once again, Boomsma will just kind of fade the car back on over there.
Oh, he's very much getting into him now. He's practically pushing him through the corner. Logan McKenzie is declaring all-out war with Boomsma on this one. Thankfully did not turn him, but my goodness, he is leaving nothing on the table.
I think that was Logan saying, hey, you know what? If you want to take all of the racetrack, well, you're going to have to deal with me on the racetrack. As Belval looks to the inside of the cutting on Baker, looks like he is going to get that pass done.
Wow. You said the over-under was difficult there, but Claude managed to get underneath him and make that pass stick. That was impressive stuff. Back to the battle for P3 in the meantime. Fredrickson now has Ericsson catching up to him. Ericsson let him through last time, although we don't know if it was intentional. What's going to happen this time with the reverse order?
I think this is exactly what we expect out of touring car racing. Just the front of the pack lined up nose to tail here. Any one of these drivers could snag away the win. Down the Conrad straightaway one more time. The thing that I've noticed from our leader, Brian Boomsma, he actually has some pretty good straightaway speed, whether that's the exit out of Forest Elbow or whatever it is. Seems like he's able to hold off Logan into the chase.
Just noticing, we can see a glimpse of the helmet of Ericsson here. And kind of reminds, I mean, speaking of NASCAR, it looks almost like it's a Jeff Gordon's or something there. But David Baker back to this fight once again. Oh, and again lifting. Schmeier going through, and now Walker going through. I wonder if Baker has a problem.
And remember, Baker had a little bit of side-to-side contact with one of the cars earlier. So, Joe, it could be to your point that there could be a little bit of damage. And this is Marlar going around, as well as Jacob Hyde. Remember, Hyde was involved in that early incident. Look at the car going through the middle. That was Elias Roman, who was also involved in that early race incident.
And I think this is actually Hampton involved in this one. Hyde snuck through it. We'll see if we can get a replay on that earlier. So he gets 2 spots in one turn. Jacob able to promote himself into 14th. Back to Ryan Walker once again. He's got Schmeier and Holbom just in front of him, so definitely possible for him to get up to 8th. From there, it's going to be a little tougher with a 3-second gap to the next car.
I think that Ryan Walker is enjoying himself right now. After what we heard from that previous race and then working his way up through, he's definitely having a good one. As we're going to check out the GSRC replay right after, we're going to get a move. This is Schmeier still trying to look up the inside. Looks like he's not going to be able to get it done into the cutting.
Jeff is second in the points. He needs to charge forward now if he hopes to fight for this championship. Do we still have that replay ready, or are we going to watch this? Because I think, there we go. Okay, we're going to check out what happened, I believe, down into the chase. Marlar coming into contact here, and oh no, just outbraked himself big time. He thought maybe he could dive to the inside to avoid an accident, but he found it anyways.
We're gonna jump back up to our top 4 battle here. So Boomsma still leading the way, but McKenzie all over the back, and even closer is Ericsson on the back of his teammate. So the one thing that Oscar has going for him is he's getting pulled along by the 2 cars in front of him, so he's got the benefit of the tow. Ericsson also does, but it's so tough being that 3rd and 4th car in line to actually crawl back the gap. Is Ericsson close enough as we watch Boomsma go full defensive and actually hard contact between our front 2, McKenzie into the back of Boomsma.
Brian parked it at the apex. He wasn't letting Logan through, but he's kind of lucky, just about hooked Boomsma with him hitting the corner of the car. Cardamone up to 11th spot now, as now Baker lets another car through.
Ooh, goes 4 wheels off the track there. Got to be careful not to get that slowdown. I think that Baker is going to be able to take advantage, although Cardamone's not slowing down completely. Looks like he might have got away with it.
Get away with it this time at the very least, and as these drivers stay close together, we're getting sort of trains forming, which is more what I expected with these style of cars at this track, pulling one another along, including this top train. And somehow Brian has been able to retain this lead. I mean, even if Logan isn't able to pass him, if Oscar or Jesper gets up there, I mean, surely they'll also be on full attack after the way Brian fought at least Jesper.
I'm going to do a little bit of foreshadowing here. I've seen the move out of Boomsma a couple times where he goes defensive into the braking zone and then absolutely just parks it at apex, so he doesn't allow an over-under, and that's why he's gotten some contact recently. But if he does that a few more times, these guys in 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, they're going to see that parked car and simply going to run him over one of the times.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. And boy, it's going to be fireworks if it comes to that. Tom Guest now behind both Baker and Cardamone. Baker, I'm guessing, it might give this one up if his pattern carries on here. No place to try and pull over through this part of the track, though. Definitely not until we get to Forest Elbow as they approach Skyline. And yeah, just going to be held up. Tom Guest can't seem to do anything. Cardamone starts to pull away from the pair of them.
Yeah, I don't think there's anywhere on the mountain to pull over and let somebody by or even cooperate a 2-wide pass. It is such a difficult track, and I love racing it. That's why I think everybody loves Bathurst. Not only the challenge, but it is also just a fun racetrack to race. There's lots of passing opportunities.
I like it because my ability is usually to keep the car whole and bring it to the finish, and this track eats up cars, so I get to usually get a good result here as Ryan Walker is thinking about something on Cedric. Now he's going to poke to the left-hand side instead, but neither effect is going to work.
Through the chase, the 21-22 section. Oh, there's a big move right there. So slip Jeff, I believe that's Tom Guest in front of David Baker there. So I believe that's the Honda in the field getting by one of the Hyundais.
Yeah, not many Civics out there, which will disappoint my dad. He swore by those Civics for many, many years. In fact, we had one that lasted from 2000 until, I think it was about 4 years ago that my brother finally sold it. So those things definitely chug along. Logan McKenzie getting close once again. This is coming up to the cutting. A little bit of a tip into this corner is going to be disastrous.
We've seen him kind of stick to the outside of the racetrack in the cutting, and I wonder if that's just posturing, because if you do that enough, your leader is going to say, oh, well, that's his line through there, and all of a sudden an over-under can happen if Boomsma adjusts his line and McKenzie takes advantage. You got to stay on top of where everybody is on the racetrack at all times.
Logan McKenzie just staying in the tire tracks through here. They are getting very close to the walls, leaving nothing to it. Racing at 10/10. Now back over Skyline once more. Can he get to the back of him? He just about did.
There was a big jump over the curbs from Boomsma, and I think that all 4 of these drivers are pushing it to the ragged limit on the downhill. I expect nothing less. These touring cars, you can throw them around, just keep them off of the walls.
Coming down to 3 to go here pretty soon. Opportunities are going to go away. Will things ramp up for Logan, Oscar, or Jesper? Are they going to stay at about the same level and try to just see if they can muscle their way past Boomsma? Or will this one absolutely boil over as they come down into the chase once again? And all of them looking very smooth this time through. But Logan McKenzie almost seems like he struggles a little bit out of Forest Elbow because Boomsma seems to be able to run away by the time they hit the Conrod.
Oh, but there's Boomsma, a huge slip up, and now he's going to go full block in the middle of the racetrack. So that's going to allow Logan McKenzie to go up the driver's right side. And Fredrickson says, you know what, I'm going to help you. I'm going to push you into this 2-wide situation. More door contact. That's going to open the door for the teammates on driver's left.
And now it looks like there might be 2 positions lost for poor Logan. I think he just got on the radio complaining that Brian is shoving him off the track each time. So he seems none too pleased about how this race is going. He's still got the inside of Ericsson. Can he at least hold on to that one? He's going to brake as deep as he dares, and he'll give it right back to the Swedes as he is going to stay in second place. So lose a little bit of time to Boomsma, but he is in no mood to allow those 2 drivers to try and attack his leader.
A great defense there, just absolutely threshold braking into turn number 2. So it will stay McKenzie versus Boomsma. And after that radio comment, you got to wonder how much patience is left inside that 0-4.
All right, so I'm starting to think my call about will it boil over is becoming more and more likely, as drivers are just getting the elbows out, and they are sharp right now. Coming down through the mountain this time, they all have to try and regroup because of the separation from that time through. Jesper and Oscar have played very patient up until this current lap. Now that they've kind of been edged out of the way, what's it going to look like if they also reach the 0-4?
It's a tough situation for these 2 teammates, right? I feel like if they want to win the race, their best option is probably that yellow car going up there and taking out his frustrations on Boomsma, because I feel like if Oscar and Jesper argue over second with Logan, Boomsma's just going to take off into the distance.
Very much so. Yeah, it's a bit of a tricky situation for all of them. You could see the flashing headlights. Logan expressing his displeasure any way that he can. He'll dip 2 wheels off into the grass, exiting the chase, but he'll keep up. Now, will he be close enough to try and attack this time into Griffin's Bend? Because he's been trying to make up that ground, and he's cut down on a bit of it, but it looks like he's still got a few car lengths to go.
It was through the final corner that Boomsma slipped up earlier in the race, and once again, just through turns 23 as well as turn 1, just doesn't look like Boomsma is hooked up as well, and Logan McKenzie just continues to close in that gap, now down to about 0.3 of a second. So 2 laps to go. The fight is right there.
You know, we've been focusing a lot on the lead, but there's not many other battles down through the field. This has been one of the best ones we've got. This, though, has been a fun one. Ryan Walker still working on Cedric. I'm kind of surprised he hasn't been able to make the pass, but Cedric has been doing an excellent job.
They come up towards turn number 2 here. See if anybody slips up. It's so bumpy getting in there on Apex and then over the exit curb as well. Just a lot of stuff going on as you start to climb up the hill, and Ryan Walker is right there. He is all over the back of Cedric.
Through the cutting, everybody sweeping the cars. The dog bear machine of Schmeier behind him still being a bit of an issue as well, because he looks quite fast. I wonder if they're honestly a bit plugged up behind this number 2.
It could be, and you know, Ryan Walker has had a good race number 2 out there, or I should say, yeah, to get into race number 3 here. So I'm sure that he wants to keep climbing the order.
Things got close down between Forest Elbow, in-force elbow between McKenzie and Fredrickson, just about making contact with him. So I think the Swedes are just as happy to try and pay things right back to the American as Kyle Marler down here unfortunately made his way back into this race. Is it going to end here? No, he'll get it back onto the track, but a big scare over McPhillamy Park.
It's those gosh dang front-wheel drive cars, and there goes the big hit from McKenzie to Boomsma. Boomsma's off the track, and now he's going to shove him all the way off the track. So a huge move from Boomsma, but let's watch the two teammates. Did they get their elbows out?
They were working together. He was pushing them forward, knowing this was their chance, and that allowed them to fight. Oh, it's his own mistake. Boomsma gives up the lead as Fredrickson is going to be able to get through. He squeezes him all the way down to the pit wall. That was just not on, and he's going to turn him maybe coming through turn one. He gets a bit of his own medicine as Jesper Eriksson will move to second, but McKenzie might be able to take that third away.
Yeah, McKenzie's all over the back of Eriksson. Boomsma got what he had coming to him, but this is the fight for second. So McKenzie on the yellow car. Drivers left. Oh, more door contact going down the front straightaway here. Can he hang on? Remember, McKenzie's been so good in Griffin's Bend. He's going to keep it tucked to the outside. Still 2 by 2, and now up into, I believe, here into the very, very tight cutting.
The tempers have reached the top, and there is nothing else to give. Everybody is pushing and shoving now. Fredrickson has been able to run away because of that. McKenzie retains P2. Eriksson fighting him for it. Boomsma, how damaged is that car? Because, boy, he took some licks. He's not that far behind that he could also try to get onto the podium as we check back in with Walker.
Yeah, Walker's still trying to hold off one of the cars. Jeff Schmeier behind and Holbom right in front of him. So Ryan Walker still has his hands very much full here, trying to secure a top 10.
Oh, and Boomsma has gotten to the back. Oh, no, he's going to turn Eriksson. Again, I think things have gone a little bit too far, and they will have penalties if the stewards find that that was egregious post-race. But Boomsma moves himself into the podium positions as, meanwhile, up at the front, Fredrickson is the one to take the most advantage of what has happened on this last lap. Contentious circumstances all around, but Oscar is leaving it behind as he comes down to the chase for the final time. Started this one from third. He worked his way up from the second heat in the first race, and eventually he was able to get here to the top run to be able to take the win here today for round 4 of the 2024 Majors Series. What a race.
And you got to give it to Fredrickson after sitting there so tough in heat number 2, just being patient. Then the opportunity came late in the race here to claim the win as Ryan Walker still locked in this 3-car battle. I believe that's Schmeier trying to do an over-under. Can he get it done? Looks like Walker's going to hold him off.
Oh my goodness. Close fights to the end in the mid-pack. Schmeier only 2 tenths behind at the line. Fought him the whole way. What a gutsy drive from Ryan Walker. I think that deserves some credit, going from 18th to 10th, as Roman's going to be able to at least come home in 14th, but he's going to be disappointed after starting in 4th on that one. I cannot wait for these post-race interviews. I hope we get some drivers to talk to us, because these are going to be spicy. But we'll have more coming. After this, we'll have our final results here unofficially, as well as our driver interviews coming your way. Welcome back to Bathurst. The mountain has claimed a few victims, unfortunately, and definitely has caused a few tempers to flare as Oscar Fredrickson stays above it all and takes the win today. Logan McKenzie was in quite the fierce battle, and he definitely got into it. He finishes second, but it was Brian Boomsma, unofficially third, who may be in some hot water, we think, after this one. Some moves that looked a little bit suspect out there over Daniel Bloomquist finishing fourth today, and Melvin Atkinson getting promoted to the top 5 with late race incidents as Claude Belval finishes in 6th and Cedric Holmbom finishing 7th. Ryan Walker going up from 18th to 8th. Couldn't get by Cedric, but did a good job as Jeff Smyer was 9th and Cardamone was 10th.
And then in 11th, we have Tom Guest in that 058 machine. Jacob Hyde, after being involved in that early first lap incident, goes all the way back up to 12th, so a nice comeback charge. David Baker finishing 13th, kind of a similar story, as well as Elias Roman here in 14th. Josh Hampton going to finish in 15th. Kyle Marler in 16th. David Holmer in 17th, and then Jesper Eriksson. Unfortunately, we saw him get turned from Brian Boomsma with 1 lap to go. Did not actually finish today's race.
And we've got our winner ready to talk to us. We have Oscar Fredrickson ready to chat after he takes victory here today with a front row seat of the drama. Oscar, you wound up with the win, but coming to that last lap, things looked like they were going to boil over. Were you and Jesper in communication to try and use that to your advantage?
Yeah, definitely. We had seen them fighting hard all race long, so we were kind of hoping they would bump into each other, do something that would let us slip by. We had an attempt at Logan, I think, on the lap before, or a few laps before at least, coming into turn 2. But yeah, got lucky there at the end with them fighting that hard.
I mean, this was a stunner, and you had to fight your way forward because you started in the lower split for race 1 to work your way into the top stuff. Was that nerve-wracking, having to make sure that you made the cut?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, as far as making top split go, I think I was quite calm, but I knew I had more pace than what my quali lap was, because I messed that up quite a bit. I only got my first lap on cold tires in. So I knew I could probably fight my way forward a little bit. Managed to get 1 position in the first heat there, and then keep fighting from there, and ended up quite well.
Win number 2 this season. You were outside the top 10 in points coming in. This is going to shoot you forward. What does this do for you moving forward? Because Forza Esports looks like just an incredible team this season.
Yeah, we're working really well together, and we have good pace on most combos. I think we're quite a broad team, so we have experience in both things like the Daytona 500 with NASCARs on super speedways, but also this kind of cars on this kind of track. We have experience in a lot of this, so we can help each other and work together to find the pace, which I think is a winning concept.
I mean, just a stunning event out there today. You guys put on a hell of a show. Congratulations on the win, and hopefully we'll get to see a bit more later on.
Thank you. Yeah, hopefully.
Oscar Fredrickson, the 955, winning the main race here in race number 3. And I do believe that Joey has caught up with one of the parts of all that drama going on out there, Logan McKenzie.
Well, Logan, first of all, congratulations on the 2nd place today here at Mount Panorama.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
So, talk us through the boiled over pot there between Boomsma and the rest of the top 3, and how you were able to get by and everything unraveling there at the end.
Yeah, I had a really good race with Oscar and Jesper. Jesper was going to bring home that 1-3 podium for his team, and until he got shoved off the last lap, so that's unfortunate. But yeah, I mean, when you're slower than someone, you start making defensive moves, and some of them are questionable, some of them aren't. And I thought, it was pretty good all the way up until that last bit of the race. There was a block thrown on the front stretch that I don't think anybody can defend. Yeah. Racing with Oscar and Jesper was great.
So let's draw on a little bit more of a positive note. If the things hadn't unraveled, were you maybe looking at a area of the racetrack where you felt you were stronger in order to make a clean move?
Well, the issue with these cars is they don't have any slipstream. So if you come out of forced elbow, and park it, or you're just fast out of forced elbow. He was pretty good out of forced elbow. Then nobody can get, like, if you slam the brakes, park it mid apex, and basically make them run into you, and then you bolt down the straightaway, the draft isn't strong enough, and that was kind of what was going on. Like, you can't just do an over-under move in these cars, and if you know that, you can take advantage of it, but to an extent. So I was looking at after turn 1 because he was really weak in the last corner, in the first corner, and there were a couple times where I thought I very much had him, and he just put his car in a place where I was going to hit him instead.
I saw that too. He was kind of slipping up out of the final turn as well as turn 1, and it provided you a few opportunities down there into Griffin's Bend. But looking at the rest of the season, one of the cool parts that I like about the majors is hopping around to all these different tracks and different cars. Is there one that you've maybe got circled that you're looking forward to later?
I'm a huge touring car guy, so majors threw up these ads for this race, and I thought I'd come out, have some fun with some guys that maybe aren't as familiar with these cars. And again, I thought it was a great race, and I had a lot of fun racing with Elias Roman, and I believe it was Oscar in that split as well, and then Jesper and Oscar today. It was great racing. I don't know if I'll be showing up to any more of the events, but yeah, touring cars around Bathurst is an amazing combo.
Well, Logan, I enjoyed watching you out here today. You put on a heck of a show despite everything else that happened out on the racetrack. So thank you for coming out and racing. Is there anybody that you want to give a shout out to?
Shout out to Jesper for being able to hold an apex when going side by side.
Well, that was Logan McKenzie doing his absolute best here in the post-race interviews. I got to give him props. That was a really tough way to end this one.
It was, and I think he thought he had the ability to come home with a win, so it's got to be frustrating. We do have one more to talk to, and that's Ryan Walker, who finished 8th, but his story is pretty interesting because, Ryan, we didn't get to see perhaps one of the wildest parts for you. I understand that you wrecked in race 2 and somehow climbed to 3rd.
Yeah, I had a good start, and then I think heading up to quarry or the cut, and I can't remember what corner where you call it. Basically, I was alongside someone, and then just basically got tagged. Nothing intentional, it was just a racing deal, but pretty much just got my head down and just tried to gain as many positions as possible to try and make it into the top split Heat 5 race or whatever it was, and managed to come away with a 3rd place.
I mean, up around your area, this style of racing is a big deal. Did you feel kind of pressure to represent well?
Not really, to be honest. It's just these TCR cars I've never been good with, so it was just a case of just whatever happens, and it was kind of up and down, but overall still enjoyed it, and I always enjoy racing around Bathurst, whatever, in any car.
Yeah, I mean, no matter what you stick around here, it's going to be a fun time. I know you had a little chance to go back and see some of the stuff that unfolded around you. What was your thoughts about the racing in general? This series does so many different styles of racing, so some kind of come in not knowing some of the etiquette or things like that. Were you pleased with how this all wound up?
From where I was in the field and most of the races, I did get caught up in a couple of incidents, but again, nothing intentional. But the driving standards, from my experience in the majors, I've always enjoyed it. It's always been relatively clean. I mean, you get some people that are competitive, but I've had a look at some of the the footage from my end, and yeah, that's interesting to say the least.
Well, like I said, we got some drama, but we got entertainment out of it today. So it was fun to watch. It was good to see you be able to climb up through, and hopefully we'll get to talk to you at Indy next round.
Oh yeah, I'll be around for the 500 for sure after winning last year. So hopefully we can make it another one and another drink of milk.
Indeed, Ryan Walker, a winner over there before, hoping to try and repeat this time, but that's going to wrap us up after some fun racing. A big thank you once again to the majors, and also a shout out to our charity Men's Health Trust New Zealand. If you want to find out any more, you can check out in the description below. Thanks to the team today. Joey, Daniel, and Dougie. Make sure to check out our social media, our website, and our merchandise store. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. As I alluded to, next race is the Speedway 500 at Sunday, May 19th, 10:30 a.m. Eastern. You don't want to miss that. It is the premier race here in the majors. Be sure to check out our other broadcasts listed here in the meantime. And until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.
Hey, you know that guy who just before the green flag keys up his mic and asks, "Anybody got a setup?" Well, this is him. This is Adam, and hey, Adam needs some help. On the other hand, this guy over here, this is Steve. Steve is a solid racer and he knows his way around the garage. Steve's problem is time. With a job and a family, he can't find enough time to build competitive setups and to race as often as he likes. But as luck would have it, Steve knows a secret. He lets the Majors Garage crew chiefs do the setup work so he can focus on the racing. At majorsgarage.com, Steve can get setups for over 60 cars on the iRacing service. So no matter what series he wants to jump into, he is covered. Somebody, anybody, really should tell Adam. See you at the garage.
Wow.